Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philip Taylor. I'm Hydro International Stormwater Solutions Specialist. I'm doing today's presentation on the Downstream Defender and First Defense online sizing tool. I'm going to give a brief overview of the presentation. First of all, we're going to just do a brief overview of the tool, then look at the different sizing methods. We're going to do a quick overview of the two units, the Downstream Defender and the First Defense, and then we're going to do a demonstration of the tool. Now, this presentation should take about 30 minutes. At the end of the presentation, there will be a follow-up email with my details, contact information on it. So if you have any questions, note them down and send me an email afterwards, and I'll answer your questions. We'll also follow up by sending out a our PDH certificate to all those that attended. So to start off with, we're just going to do a quick overview of the online tool. Now, the online tool sizes the Downstream Defender and First Defense high capacity units for post-construction total suspended solids treatment. The tool's been available since 2012 with just the Downstream Defender in it, but this year we added the First Defense high capacity unit. There's three basic sizing controls within the tool. One is sizing by regulatory agency, so those that work within, say, the NJDEP or the Washington DOE area, you can size by selecting that regulator. We can size by a target particle size, or we can manually select the unit. The tool itself makes recommendations based on trying to size the smallest unit that meets the treatment criteria and the approval process and makes the best option call. And then if a second unit of a different kind is available, it will recommend an alternate unit. The condition being that the alternate unit may not meet the regulatory approvals, but it will meet the treatment approvals. So what you'll need to do is just be careful using the alternate unit, and I'll go into that more later on in the tool. The tool generates drawings which can be either generic or site-specific. And also you can generate project summaries for the entire project. So if you have more than one product in a project, you can download the project summary, the performance specs for each unit, and you can use that to generate a specification for contracts, or you can include this document within a submittal to a city for approval for the project. There's also a button that allows you to submit a project summary to us, so we can check the designs if you wish, and we can put together a design check, a quote, and make any comments that might be relevant to the project. No cost to that and no obligation. For those of you that might be working within Canada and particularly Ontario, we have a Canadian-specific tool. It's a spreadsheet that I've developed, and if you need that, just email me. The online tool currently is a US units only, and it really applies more to US design than the Canadian area, basically because it won't handle metric units at this point. So let's look at sizing, different sizing methods in the industry. Within our industry, there are three basic common sizing criteria, methods I should say: net annual removal, continuous runoff models, and event-based sizing. Now the first two, the net annual and the continuous runoff models, use historic rainfall data to produce an average or an annualized treatment efficiency. The online tool doesn't do that calculation at the moment. That'd be a future update. So for now, the online tool uses event-based treatment. Now, event-based treatment requires the user to know some detail, but event-based treatment is based on sizing for a water quality event, which might be a ½ inch or 1 to say 1.5 inch rainfall depth, a 1 inch runoff depth, or maybe it's a storm intensity. Usually within the more recent stormwater manuals, you'll find the water quality event might be described as a water quality volume. And some of the more recent manuals will have a method for also sizing for a continuous runoff or a flow-through system like these treatment systems rather than a volume-based system. If you're uncertain about that, just email us. We'll try and walk you through that, see if we've maybe worked in your area before, we know what to do. But basically what we're looking for is a runoff rate that we can treat. Typically uses TR55 with a rational method to calculate that. So the inputs required for the tool, you need to know the water quality flow rate. That's what we need to treat. We need to know the peak flow rate, and that's the maximum flow that we expect the system to see. That might be the 10, 25, or 100-year event. Particle size, that may be set by the regulator, or it may be that you have the option of choosing a different particle size, and within the tool you can select those options. And the percent reduction that we're aiming for at the water quality flow rate. So let's just do a quick overview of the equipment that we use. We have available the Downstream Defender and the First Defense High Capacity. The Downstream Defender has been around for a long time. Many of you might know it already. The First Defense High Capacity is a newer model. It's an internally bypassed model, and we'll just go into more detail here. The Downstream Defender is available in 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12-foot diameter units. It's manhole based. It has no internal bypass, so that means that every bit of water that goes through it receives treatment. If it requires bypass to handle very high flows or very large pipes, then use an external bypass structure. Treatment flow rates up to about 32 CFS on the 12-foot units, and it has a lot of certifications, verifications, NJDEP, New Washington DOE, and many local certifications as well. The First Defense High Capacity currently is available in only 2 model sizes, a 4-foot and a 6-foot. Next year we should have an 8-foot version of this pending. It has an internal bypass. Now, because we have an internal bypass on this unit, when you have internally bypassed units, you always trade off the treatment flow against the bypass flow and head loss. So generally internally bypassed units have a smaller treatment flow rate. With the 6-foot unit we can treat up to 3.4 CFS approximately. Depends on the particle size that you target. It can also be used with an external bypass. Currently we're going through the NJDEP approval process for this product, and that should be finished by the end of this year, but it also does have many local approvals. For more information, you can go to the Hydro International website, that'd be hydro-int.com, and just make sure when you go to our website, look up in the right-hand corner and look for the US flag. We have a US website, a UK website, and an international website. Just make sure you're on the US website. If you go to the products and look for the stormwater products, you'll find a lot more information about all our stormwater products. So to get started, you need to either log in or create an account. If you go to the products page, you'll find links on our Downstream Defender page, and there should be a link, if it's not there already, soon on the First Defense page to take you to the sizing calculator login page. Once you're there, you can bookmark it for future reference. If you don't already have a login, you create one just by clicking the Create an Account link at the bottom of the login page. It doesn't take much to create an account. Just looking for a name, email address, and just a few basic details, and then create an account. So once we go that, we go into the tool, and I'll just switch to that now. Once you log in, this is the screen you'll be entered into. So that's the first screen. This is the basic setup or home screen, if you like. Along the top of the screen, it's got My Projects. That'll take you to the Projects area where all the folders containing your individual designs for projects will be. Size of product will bring you back to this screen. Downloads will take you to our website for more information. It will take you to a landing page on our website, and Help will take you to our website as well for more information. You'll notice that also within this webinar there is a handout section. There are 2 product brochures there, as well as a manual for this tool as well, so you can download those. In the center of the screen here we have the two products, and anything's underlined you can just scroll over, you'll get more information about the products. And over on the left hand side here is the actual controls. So here we have the size by regulator button, and that will expand out and produce another drop down menu where you can grab the regulatory agent that you're working with. There are these little bubbles here with question marks in them. If you hover over those, you'll get additional information relevant to that part of the screen as well. Next one, size by target particle size. This will give you a drop-down menu of the different particle sizes that you can use. In this case, you have 230 micron, that's a coarser material. That currently is applicable to the first defense only at the moment. 106 micron, that's equivalent to the OK110. In fact, it is the OK110 particle size we use. So if you're working in areas like Indianapolis and North Dakota, OK110, 106 micron is a very common size for sizing. And then the 50 micron is relevant to the downstream defender only at this stage. And then you put in the water quality flow rate. The manual selection option, that lists out all the equipment, and you just select the piece that you are looking for and move on to the setup product. So if we start this off and just go to size by regulator, that's how you would start, or size by particle size, and select the regulator. And if you're working within the New Jersey DEP, select that. And the next thing you put in is your water quality flow rate. So this is what you've calculated from your water quality event. Let's just put in 2 CFS there for a small site and click Set Up My Product. You then come into this configuration screen. You can see straight away it recommends the smallest unit that meets the criteria that you've put in. So for treating 2 CFS and requiring NJDEP approval, the Downstream Defender is the best option. There's an alternate here, which is the first defense unit. I personally know that this one isn't approved yet, but it will meet the treatment objectives. So alternate units you just have to be a little bit careful with, and if you're unsure whether it's approved, just email us and we'll help you out with that. Down the right hand side of the screen you have the controls to allow you to configure the unit for your site. By default, it'll put the unit in an online configuration. If you just scroll over the little arrow there, it will show you what's meant by online. In that case, it's everything that runs through that pipe has to go through the unit. So hydraulically and physically, from pipe size point of view, from peak flow point of view, to stay online, everything's got to go through there without breaking anything, without causing any excessive head loss. The offline configuration, we use an external bypass structure so that we only treat what we need to treat and bypass larger flows. So by default it's on the online, and if you need to go offline, it'll be able to highlight and select it. The values put in these boxes, the first one, the peak flow rate, these are the maximum values that we like to use for these products. So these boxes are going to automatically fill with the maximum values. So in this case, the maximum flow rate for a 6-foot downstream defender is 8 CFS. Remember, our treatment flow rate isn't reflected here, but we put it in at 2 CFS. Now this next box, which shows the peak flow storm frequency, is kind of a tolerance box. If you're designing and you know that your peak flow is, say, around about 8 CFS and it's a 1 in 100 year event, that gives us more confidence that the design is more robust. If this was a 10-year event, then we would expect to see that 8 CFS, it's 10 years. You know, there might be a 100-year event down the road which might stress a little bit more. So this just builds in some tolerance for us when we're doing design work. So that's why we just need to, that little bit of information can be useful when we're looking at, someone might come and say, well, I've got 8.1 CFS, is that okay? And we say, yeah, if it's a 1 in 100 year event, 8.1 is probably fine. 8.5 might be fine. But if it was a 1 in 5 year event, we might say, well, really, you want to stick with 8. Next box down, we have the pipe sizes again. This is automatically set to the maximum pipe size. You might have a smaller pipe coming in, That's fine, you can just change it. It's not a problem. It'll allow you to do it. If you decide that you want to put a bigger pipe in there, you'll probably get a warning pop up. In this case, it will accept the 15-inch pipe. If we go to a 24-inch pipe, you get a warning that says, this will put your downstream defender in an offline arrangement. Do you wish to continue? So it's not going to stop you doing it. It's going to switch the unit into an arrangement which will take that larger pipe. In this case, it will say the pipe's too big to go into this particular model, so we'll go offline. If you agree to do that, what it does, you can see it's changed the arrangement to offline. It shows up here the arrangement is offline. To get that to go back to an online arrangement, you have to get within the parameters of the unit. So if I switch back to an 18-inch pipe, I can now go back to online. The online has been enabled, but it doesn't automatically switch back. So just watch that. You have to manually put it back if you do want to go back. So that's that shown there. It's unsaved there. You get some information there. So the next thing to do is save the product. If you go back to basic setup from this position, you'll lose what you've done because it's not saved. So if you leave this screen without saving the product, just be warned you'll lose your design, and that can be frustrating. So at this point, save the design. And it'll ask you for two things. You need a reference name. This reference name is just the location on site. So it could be, say, treatment manhole 1. It's just what you use to reference on site, and then it's going to need a project to put it to. You can either choose an existing project you've already done or create a new project. If you create a new project, it's going to ask you for a project name, a city location, some applicant, just some basic information just so you can create that project folder. In this case, I'm going to just put this back in an existing folder here and save the product. And now it names the project and the product, and it's saved. From that position, you can now download either your project details, this is a summary, or get the drawing. So you can go for a standard general arrangement drawing, which will download, and it names the product and the project, but it uses generic information on the sizing, on the invert and rim elevations. If we go back, we can get a detailed general arrangement. This allows you to put in a custom or a site-specific rim and invert. If you change any value, you have to resave it. And if you put in values that are too small or don't fit the design, you'll get a pop-up come up warning you that the numbers are too small. You need to change an elevation to make it fit in. But once you do that, you'll need to save this project again. It's gone to unsaved. You've made a change. So you just hit the save button. Good to go there. And now you can download the detailed general arrangement drawing. And that will come up now. And the rim and invert elevations that you put in will be specific to that drawing. If you look at the alternate, it will switch things over, and you can go through and change the configuration of that. Okay, so let's go back to the basic setup again. If we were to size by target particle size, you can select something like the OK110. In this case, it's going to ask you for a treatment standard that you're going for. Let's go for 80% removal. That's the common number. And again, let's try treating 2 CFS. Set up the product. And in this case, it's switched. It's the same treatment conditions, but we've changed. We're no longer trying to solve for a regulator. So we don't have the constraint of having to get an approved product that is approved by a certain regulator. So we're free to select whatever unit we like. And by default, the program is trying to give you the simplest solution, the smallest and simplest solution. So now it's saying that the best option is a first defense high capacity. And again, it's gone to online. You have a higher peak flow rate available with this device because of the it can take larger pipes. Again, you can change the storm frequency for the peak flow. Now the first defense can be configured with either a pipe inlet, a grate inlet only, in which case the inlet pipe is graded out because you don't have an inlet pipe, or you can have both a grate or a pipe inlet. The Downstream Defender generally just has pipe inlets. Maximum pipe sizes are also filled in. You can make these smaller. Now the first defense, this high capacity units, you'll notice there's a slider here for the pipe slope. This is to check between the pipe size, the peak flow, and the slope of the pipe that the inlet velocity is not going to exceed certain permittable values. So if you get warnings when you come up, generally if we're treating 2 CFS, we're probably only going to treat maybe a peak of somewhere, or there'll be a peak flow somewhere around 10, 15 CFS. So if we change that, everything's still fine. We can try changing the slope. You might get a warning here that the peak flow exceeds configuration maximum flow. If you get too many of these messages and you're uncertain what's going on, just email us or give us a call and say, hey, we're having trouble with this. Can you just do a quick design check? This is what we want to do. This program, because it's got a few extra safety checks in there, that can be a little frustrating at times until you work out how exactly to use this. Now you notice up here, now the Downstream Defender, which is the alternate, has a yellow caution triangle. What that really means is that the configuration you're trying to configure the first defense for won't actually work with the Downstream Defender. Let's say you want to switch to that, it'll automatically ask you, do you want to reconfigure so that you can use the Downstream Defender? And basically what that usually means is it's going to push the Downstream Defender offline because you're trying to fit 30-inch pipes in there. So it's a matter of saying, okay, well, if I switch units, am I using 30-inch pipes? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm only using 15-inch pipes. And when you get the configuration back within the permittable configuration for the unit, the online option will appear back again. So this is a very configurable tool. You can just keep working with it. You'll learn it as you go along, and say we're always here to help if you need help. Don't forget to save the product. Always don't try and move off the screen without saving the product. Otherwise, you'll find yourself repeating everything that you've done. Now it's saved. If you go to My Projects, this is the folder that holds everything. So you have individual product folders, so project folders. And under each project folder, you'll find the individual products that you've designed. Along here, you'll find there is an alternate. So when there is an alternate available to the project, to the product that you've designed and saved, it'll always continue to tell you if you want to change it, there is one available. You can open and edit that product, or you can delete that product. You can also submit the entire design to us for review from here as well. Currently, you can't delete a project folder. I'm not sure why that is. It's something to do with how the program has worked. You can delete individual products, but you can't delete the product folder itself, the project folder itself. What I tend to do is if I have too many old projects, I just rename them Z something and sort on project name, and you can push it to the end of the queue, and so it drops off. You can sort these by location, creation date, so these are configurable. They can be reordered. You can search as well. So that's basically the tool. Let's just drop out of this for a second. Go back to My Projects. Size of product. Manual selection. is just that. If you know the product you want, you just select it, go and configure it, save it, and generate the drawings. You can also download specifications here. You'll find further options here to download the specification for the product. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I wanted to keep this a short presentation. I know it's difficult when you're hanging on a computer listening in over the internet. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at my email address down there. As I said, following this, there'll be an email going out. It'll contain my contact details as well as the certificate of attendance. I've also recorded this, so we should be able to make it available offline so you can review it again or send it on to other people to look at. So once again, I'd like to thank you very much and have a good afternoon.